What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 228. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You drop a follow over there, you get notified when we go live, so you join on the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch live, that's a-okay. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, likes, shares, reviews, whatever it is, may seem small, but does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, another solo cast, as you can see. We're going to be talking a lot of video games, some games that I've been playing either on stream or off stream lately and have wrapped up, and kind of wanted to give my general overall thoughts, feelings about each of those experiences. So obviously, as we get to them, spoilers. But yeah, let's jump on into it with one we actually just finished on stream recently as of recording. It's Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, this is my first time playing RE4 in any capacity. And I had an amazing time with it. Of course, there were certain times where we did run into, I guess you could say, frustrating moments with certain enemies, moments with how RE4 is in comparison to, for example, RE2 and RE3, RE7. With that action-oriented gameplay, they're throwing a lot at you. So certainly those moments can be a little stressful and a little panicky. But overall, I really did enjoy what Remake had to offer. Now, I've seen clips and bits and pieces of RE4 originally, so I don't know how much like this differs from the original and how gameplay's better or improved or adjusted rather for the remake. But what I've played of the remake, or my time with it rather, I really had a great time with it. I thought there was plenty of moments where you could catch your breath, a lot of save room opportunities, a lot of moments with the merchant, the seller, so you could kind of take a break there, recollect yourself. Even though there was a lot of action in there, I didn't feel many moments where I felt like I was deprived for bullets. Granted, we were playing on like the standard normal difficulty, so I assume that gets more difficult if you're going to push that bar higher. But for what we played, it never felt super bad. There was a couple times where we did get lower, but I never reached a point where we were completely out of everything and we're screwed. You only got the knife. Oh, nope, your knife's broken, whatever it is. So while it got tense at times, it never felt like an impossible mountain to climb ahead of you. Whether it was, once again, those big hordes of enemies that they sent at you of either A, just survive long enough until a time limit, or take them all out, it always felt fair in that thing, in those moments, with the groups and with the bigger enemies that they did throw at us. Now, my history with RE is a weird one. I got to it late. I mean, I was a scaredy cat, so I didn't really feel like I was going to jump into Resident Evil ever, but jumped in with the hype around 7 back in 2015, 2016? No, I think it was 15. Jumped in the hype around that, and obviously that game is way different than what we're talking about now with RE4. Speaking of, we will be replaying it for stream soonish, so keep an eye on that. But RE7 was where I jumped in, and then from there with the remainder of the remakes with RE2 Remake and RE3 Remake, jumped over to that. And I've been kind of playing this weird back and forth game, 7, 2, 3, 8, now 4. Don't know if I'll jump into 5 and 6, perhaps if they continue what they're doing with the remakes, whether it's 5 and 6 or it's Code Veronica, which I hear a lot of people kind of want. We'll have to see. They seem to have slowed down with their output of the Resident Evils. I think they had a good string where they were doing one a year, whether it was the continuation of 7 and 8 or the remakes of 2 and 3. They've slowed down. I don't think we've gotten a release since RE4 Remake, which was last year, 2023. So we'll have to see if, they put out any titles come 2025, or what the excuse me, or what the plan is over there on Capcom. But I know also they've been focusing heavily on Monster Hunter Wilds. Granted, that could be a different team, but still, let's see. So RE4 Remake, yeah, it was 2023. Then before that, it was Reverse, which was a spin-off game at 22, Village 21, RE3 Remake at 2020, RE2 Remake at 2019, and then, oh really, RE7 was 2017. My apologies. I guess we had like the kitchen demo, and the buzz around that was 2015, 2016 era, because I remember watching Maximilian Dude go through that with his buddies while I was out in California, or at least I feel like I was. So we'll have to see what their release plan is going forward. I haven't heard of anything. But yeah, going back to RE4, I had a good time with that. I'm trying to think if there were any negatives. Like I said, just a few stressful times of dealing with certain enemies, of just like, you're throwing this at me right now. Like those regenerating guys, those guys are a pain in the ass. I don't think I took out many of those. I think there was one that you had to, where it kind of evolved into a stage 2, where it had like almost spikes coming out of it, like a porcupine. That was frustrating because you had the attachment, the thermal, to see like, oh, you have to shoot these 3 hearts. That's how you actually get it. And it just for some reason didn't seem like it was, the bullets were penetrating or hitting those targets. That was a little frustrating. So I didn't kill too many of those guys. That was kind of like, I see ya, bye, I'm out of here, and make a run for it. Ashley, I was worried about how Ashley and her mechanics were going to play. So for those of you guys who don't know what the RE4 story is, you're continuing Leon's story, I guess, from RE2, and you are on a mission to save the president's daughter and bring her back safely. She's been captured by this cult where everybody's infected by Las Plagas, which is like essentially some zombie virus where they're all tentacle-y and crazy monsters. And that's like a hive mind where Sadler, the big bad, kind of controls them and has them do his bidding. So she gets captured, and once you're able to find her and locate her, you kind of escort her around through the areas to safety to try and get her out. And it's the whole back and forth of like, oh, you got her, now she got captured again, now you gotta go get her, and then back and forth there. So when we first got her, man, I was like, this is going to be awful, just having her with you. Obviously, when you're in the action, you just have to worry about yourself, running around, avoid the zombies, go here, go there. With her, she's obviously not prepared for any of this. She doesn't have a gun. She's got no weaponry with her. So you can tell her either stick close to you and you can try and book it and maneuver through areas, or you can have her hang back. And you can also hide her in certain places. And I think hiding her was like the saving grace a couple times, like, hey, stick in this locker, do not move, because they won't find her, thank goodness, while you're able to clear up the room or whatever. But when you didn't have an option to hide her, it was stressful at certain times. If she takes a hit, she's down, and then if she's down and takes a second hit, she like insta-dies. She can get carried away, and if you don't get her quick enough, which we ran into a couple times on stream, it'll be just instant game over. You can actually accidentally shoot her, if you're trying to, like, they're carrying her away, I shot her in the leg, game over. So you got to be careful of that. Yeah, Blue Mudhorn chat, she has no survival skills. She does not. So at first, big pain, and I'm like, oh crap, not knowing obviously what was going to happen in the story. I was like, we got to go through the whole game babysitting, her, trying to get her to safety. I was like, this is gonna suck. But like I said, it is back and forth where she'll either be with you or she gets recaptured, so you kind of have that solo gameplay again. And I thought that struck a nice balance. And as the game progressed, I feel like she was easier to manage. I know that sounds weird, but I didn't feel like she was getting in the way. Now, we played this game for 2 reasons. One, it was on my backlog, but also 2, was a channel point redemption on stream. So if people save up their channel points, they can redeem a game for stream. If I'm feeling it, I'll push past the single stream and we'll go as far as we can, whether it's the story or I just get burnt out of it. So Turn-Based TJ was the one who redeemed it, and he's played the original. He's like, yeah, she was way worse to kind of maneuver with or deal with. She got like in the way a whole lot more with RE4 original. So I'm glad that perhaps they changed that or modified it and whatnot, because that would have been awful to deal with the entire time. Especially with the amount of enemies that they do throw at you. It's just like, woof, okay. In terms of the enemies, so I mentioned how they're all kind of infected with like this virus, the hive mind, and sometimes they have these tentacles that come out of them and whatnot. I thought it was a nice progression, even though most of the enemies do stay the same where they are these villagers, and eventually military guys as we found later. I felt like it was a nice progression in terms of, okay, it's just villagers. Okay, now you have villagers with their head that are kind of like broken and their neck's broken. They'll come right back at you. Or some of them will get the giant tentacle thing that will come out of their head, and now you got to deal with that. And then there's another one where it's like a praying mantis or whatever, where it tries to eat you. I thought that was a nice progression throughout, and it never got super boring. Of what we were dealing with. So that was nice throughout, and surprisingly those things weren't too bad to deal with. Obviously early on, similar to like your RE2s and 3s, when you get those new enemies like your the lickers, for example, for RE2, like those things are terrifying. And if you don't know how to deal with them, it's like you're gonna die. So I felt the progression here with the enemies and then their difficulty. At first, obviously it's there because it's a whole new factor, but I felt like as we got towards the end, it's like, oh, it's just this guy again. Okay, pop, 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 shoot him there. It kind of almost went right over my head, didn't even faze me in terms of like, I'm in danger, as it used to be when they first showed up. So that was good. I'm in danger. So that was good. Ada returns in this story. I don't know what the whole gimmick is there. I know, obviously, she's a character that messes with Leon and has her own agendas and objectives that she's trying to do, and she's all secret about it. I don't know what her deal is. Maybe that's the point. You're not supposed to know what her deal is. And hearing that the continuation of the story, it doesn't really clear up too much. It seems like 2 and 3 were obviously very connected. 7 and 8 connected. It seems like 4 through 6, they're kind of solo or they're independent stories. Granted, obviously you're playing as different characters. I believe 4, obviously, which we played as, you're focused on Leon. 5 is back to Chris, and then 6 is also Chris. Don't know. But it would have been nice to see perhaps a little bit more in between them. You get a few moments where she pops in. You learn more about what she is doing there with Luis, for example, and the trade deal that they had. You do get the little tease at the end of the credits here for what potentially could come up, which I thought was cool. I mean, spoilers. I don't know too much about Wesker, but to see him teased here, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So if they do decide to do the remakes, as we said, and continue this trend and do 5 and do 6, I wonder if they'll rework it a little bit or try and make it so they're a little bit more cohesive with one another. We see in 7 and 8, it's a new character, but eventually it does tie back into characters we're familiar with. So I'm curious if they'll try and interweave those a little bit more, or if it's just like, hey, these were great games that people really vibed with and are popular titles. Let's make these obviously remaster, remake versions of them and have people play the best version of these titles type thing. I don't know if they'll continue with 5 and 6, or if they'll just be like, nope, we got our new story here going on with 7, and we'll just focus on something from there. Time will tell there. Trying to think what else. I will say this in general, and I think I said this towards the end of the stream, but the Resident Evil titles overall, for me, very good in terms of I want to play them again immediately after I'm done. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like the collectible aspect, like for this one and a few others. But this one, you had the little like revolutionary guys, bobbleheads that you could collect in 2 and 3. I believe there were raccoons for Raccoon City and the setting there. I was like, oh, well, now I know the trigger or the sound cue with the little mechanical guys, the Clockwork Stellans or something like that. But that little squeaky sound, I'm like, oh, they're in the area. And earlier in the game, I wasn't picking up on that. Like rewatching footage back for editing for YouTube purposes, I was like, oh, I can hear the little cue. He was right there, and I didn't even bother looking for him. So I don't know if it's just a search or like I want to go back and search for those. You guys who've been with me for a while know like I like trophy hunting. I like achievement hunting. The RE games are up there in terms of like difficulty level, at least from my knowledge outside looking in and not putting a lot of research into it. Like play on this difficulty or beat it with so many saves or beat it in a certain amount of time or only using these weapons. Like there's a lot of different ones for replay, which I appreciate because it adds that depth of replayability, but it's not, while I might be going back for certain things, I don't know if I'll ever go back to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 100% of everything here and really test myself. I don't know if it's that, but since we have ended RE4 on stream, like I've been planning on jumping into Star Wars Outlaws like as my casual game. And then I played it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm feeling it, but you know what I'm thinking about? Thinking about Resident Evil. So, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate it. I felt the same way after Village, after RE8, of like, yeah, I'm going to jump back into this, I'm going to play through it again. Didn't end up doing that, but I will say that's a prop to these games, is they have that kind of driving factor afterwards where you want to play them again. Whether it is just like, I know all the areas better, maybe I missed a treasure, maybe I missed a collectible, or you just want to push yourself with those harder difficulties of like, let's see if I can beat it on this, or without saves, or less saves, or no healing items, or whatever it is. I will say props to them for that. That's good. Play it again. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with RE4. I'm glad I finally dipped into the backlog and did play that. Like I said, I'm curious to see what they do with the remainder of the games, if they do decide to remake them, because I'll definitely jump in, as I have enjoyed all of the games so far I've played in this most recent launches that Capcom has done. And yeah, I'm stoked for RE7, which once again we'll be playing on stream soonish, so you can keep an eye out over there on the channels. We'll jump back into that at some point. But yeah, moving over to topic 2, another game we're going to be jumping. We're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat 1's Khaos Reigns DLC. So as of recording, this came out a few weeks ago. We played the entire DLC in one stream, which was to be expected. So pretty much this was just an expansion upon Mortal Kombat 1's story. So quick synopsis. Since Mortal Kombat 9, we've kind of had more of a continuous storyline of what's going on in the Mortal Kombat universe. So MK9, it was a reset. As Raiden went back in time and he was trying to fix something so Shao Kahn wouldn't take over the world and the realms. So essentially he goes back, you try and change little elements of what had happened in Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 to try and change up this dire future that's happened. He learns that, nope, actually, you need to change one aspect, and then, hey, we beat Shao Kahn, great. Mortal Kombat 10 was the rise of Shinnok, and the one of the Elder Gods. He's really evil. He's returned from what other time we beat him ages ago, and now it's introducing new characters like the Combat Kids, like Cassie Cage and Kung Jin and Takeda and Jackie Briggs, and it's like their rise up into the main protagonist here. Okay, so you go through that, beat the big bad. Great. MK11, we got a new Elder God in... Ooh, what's her name? Hold on, I can picture her. Ooh, Kronika. That makes sense. Kronika, who controls time. And every time things get unbalanced, she resets time and tries to build things so it is an even playing field everywhere. So you notice, can't remember how it comes into play exactly, but essentially it's you versus Kronika trying to beat her, stop this whole reset and the evil that she's causing. So we got like a little bit of crossover of timelines of the past with early versions of the characters and current day of the characters, and we had these crossover moments. Really cool, a lot of fun, fan servicey thing. So MK11 finished. Liu Kang takes over the Hourglass. Now he is the Keeper of Time. And MK11 had gotten its own DLC, like small DLC expansion, where Shang Tsung, evil guy, he actually wanted the power of the Hourglass. And you take care of that. So MK1 story, sorry, I know we're a lot of things I'm throwing at you. MK1 was Liu Kang's in charge. We're rewriting, we're restarting history, and we get to see these new origins for all these characters. Let's see how Sub-Zero and Scorpion restart, see how Johnny Cage restarts, all these different characters. So Liu Kang's in charge, Raiden's a regular guy, him and Kung Lao are best friends, Sub-Zero and Scorpion are brothers with Smoke as an adopted brother, and the Lin Kuei, who are like the defenders of Earthrealm. Johnny Cage and Kenshi have their own beef, but then become buddies. And then we see over in Outworld, House Sindel's in charge, Melina's going to be second in command, Katana's there, all those guys, right? So we play through that, and then you learn, the DLC expansion of Mortal Kombat 11, where the evil guy wanted to be in charge, that's actually canon. So at the end of that DLC, you could pick what ending you want, and that's canon. Well, actually, he has his own timeline that he's been making. And he's like, I'm sick of Liu Kang. I want to wipe off his, eliminate his timeline. And then at the end of MK1, it gets batshit crazy, where it's infinite timelines, and we're all just battling each other, Avengers Infinity War style. Insane. At the end of that, good guys win. Woo, of course. And we're left at this moment of, all right, we're continuing this new timeline with Liu Kang. What are we going to go with next? And I'm sure we talked about this ages ago, probably a year ago at this point, when we did finish MK1 storyline of like, where are they going to go from here? It's obviously, you reach these highest of highs of doing this multiverse, all these people coming in, fighting each other. Like, it's an insane moment and thing to try and top, right? Because that's what you want. Any type of progression, you want to do better than the last one, make it more compelling, make it more interesting. So to have just the fucking kitchen sink thrown at you of, here's everything. We had no idea where MK2, if they were going to continue, I'm sure they would, where that story was going to go. Was it going to explore Sub-Zero, who is now broken off, and his evil version of the Lin Kuei? Was it going to explore Scorpion and Smoke and the Shiryu and their good side? Was there a new enemy that was going to appear, even though Liu Kang seems to have gotten rid of everybody? Was there going to be Shao Kahn rising to power? But what was going to be the case? So with Khaos Reigns, it's going off a teaser that MK1 originally ended with, where another timeline comes in. They're like, man, this battle was great. We want to do it again. Because that guy, just gets off on people fighting. It's weird. So we get the Khaos Reigns DLC, which is essentially him now invading the timeline once again to... What was his thing? What did he want to do? He just wanted to... I think it was just cause it so there was always fighting going on in this chaos element in the realms. It shows how memorable the story is that I can't remember it. Yikes. So you go on this little side journey with new characters. You have Cyrax introduced, Sector introduced. You play a little bit as Sub-Zero, but in a different capacity. And then you play as some of the characters from this new character's timeline that you didn't really get to play as too much in the original storyline, which is Rain and Tanya. Cool, great, whatever. So they go on this journey of trying to save Garrus, which is Liu Kang's like guardian of time. Try and save him and bring him back to the timeline he belongs to, or else that timeline is going to get Thanos snapped out of existence. And for the most part, it's fine. It's an interesting story. They got, like, compelling scenes and very good scenes cinematic-wise. But once you get to the end fight, it just kind of ends. You get to see that this is how Sub-Zero in this timeline becomes Noob Saibot through this Chaos timeline. So you get to play as him, and he's super powerful. But then you just beat not Chaos, what's his name? Havoc. Havoc is doing all this. And he's kind of a chump, not gonna lie. And it just ends, and you're like, okay, great. What was the point of all that? So now it just leads to this moment of, once again, questioning, like, what is next? The only other developments we got from the Khaos Reigns stuff and ending that story. So now Sub-Zero is more powerful as Noob Saibot. Him and Sector are buddy-buddy. They're going to keep building Lin Kuei. Cyrax, who was part of them, realized she's done wrong and is now on the good side and has joined Scorpion. That's it. So we're still in the same spot of, like, where do we go from here? It's just now Sub-Zero is a little bit more powered up. Overall, do I think this DLC was good? I'm going to lean towards no. In terms of a technical side of things, in terms of the characters that they did add, and obviously the cinematic moments that they did add to the story, NetherRealm doesn't miss. They do amazing stuff with what they do with their cinematics, the facial animations, the character development that they do have. That's all great. Never going to deny that. I don't know if this expansion, which I think 2.5 hours it took me to get through, I don't know if it was really worth the $40 price point that it came at. Now, granted, that $40 price point was the 2.5 hour campaign. It was Combat Pack 2, which is Cyrax, Sector, Noob Saibot, all playable immediately. And then it is guest characters as Terminator, not Arnold Schwarzenegger, the second Terminator. I can't remember that actor's name, but he's bad. Conan the Barbarian, and who was the last one? It's a guest character that was people were hoping for. Ghostface. So you get those guys, which, I mean, cool, whatever. You can only get that combat pack if you buy this story add-on DLC, so that kind of sucks. Then there's a lot of other updates they did add, like they added animalities. I don't know if that's exclusive to the combat pack or if that was just a free update. So, take that with a grain of salt. So yeah, it just, I don't know. It didn't feel like it really added anything. Obviously, in comparison, Mortal Kombat 11's add-on story, I would say similar length, 2.5, maybe 3 hours. So that's what I was expecting out of this. But that felt like higher stakes with going through the evil person trying to take over. We wouldn't know the exact stakes of it until we now came to play Mortal Kombat 1 of like, oh, that actually was a canon ending? Awesome. For some reason, that DLC itself just felt more worthwhile than what this was. And I can't put my thumb on it directly or finger on it of what exactly the difference is of why that DLC felt more worth it in comparison. And I guess it's not fair to put too much of a harsh light on it, but yeah, just something here didn't click. I don't think it was the right right thing to do. Well, not right thing to do. I don't know if it was a story worth exploring to kind of end up in the same spot of like, well, I don't know where we go from here, because it's still this crazy, insane high bar of like, how do you top everybody in the universe fighting each other, and the elements there. I will say, jumping back into Mortal Kombat 1 with this DLC, I haven't played too much of the base game since beating the story a year ago. This has got me playing it again. Invasions was a nice touch that they tried to add this time. Didn't click with me the first time, but it was clicking a little bit more now. I haven't played it probably in a week, but I was playing a little bit more. There are fun characters, which I do appreciate. I think that's something that's been lacking a little bit, at least for me personally. Everybody else is obviously, it's up to you how you feel with the games. But MKX, I feel, had the most characters that I personally jumped into and had a fun time with, and was getting the hang of, while MK11 I absolutely loved for the story. I loved it for the history and the crypt. But there wasn't many characters that I really gravitated towards in terms of playing. And MK1 felt the same for a little while. I think this DLC brought me back in and kind of has helped me explore a few more characters and get more used to them and whatnot. So I do appreciate that. All in all, it's just, I really like the NetherRealm games. I've enjoyed what they've done with Mortal Kombat since bringing me in with MKX. And then the Injustice series, which, RIP, I don't think we're getting an Injustice 3 anytime soon or at all. But yeah, I just don't, it felt a little and boring for the quality that they do bring in terms of their storytelling. Once again, the animation stuff, the cinematics there's no denying that they're in their A game. But yeah, in terms of substance, this felt like a miss. So I'm hoping they can make something interesting and compelling for MK2. Probably be another 2 or 3 years till that point. Apparently they've been planning their next game for a while, but who knows when they actually started working on it. Probably more of the team is hopping over to it now that MK1 is wrapping up with this DLC and, for foreseeable patches and obviously finishing up the characters there. So I guess they still do have a little bit of time. I don't think we have any dates for when certain characters are dropping in terms of the guest characters. So it'll still be some time before MK2. But hopefully whatever they are working on, that story is compelling and can kind of skirt us back in the right direction and make it fun again. Yeah. Khaos Reigns. Yeah, just didn't feel it. Moving on to our last topic. Ooh, we're blasting through these. Let's talk about Saints Row real quick from 2022. Now, when this came out, or rather when this was announced, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. We're revamping Saints Row. We're doing a reboot, reboot. We're starting over with this and making a fun new attempt at it. My history of Saints Row was 3. The third was my first one, and I feel like that game kind of blew up in terms of the series and maybe perhaps was a lot of people's first. But it played through Saints Row the third, the fourth game, and then did they have a fifth? Or was it Gat Out of Hell? We have the power of the internet in front of us. Why not use it? But if you don't know, Saints Row is kind of like GTA turned on its head in terms of the goofiness. So they just kind of go balls to the wall in terms of comedy and humor and like over-the-top action that shouldn't make any sense in any capacity. And they just have a lot of fun with it. And from what I've heard, Saints Row the Third was the one that really dialed that up. Similar to like a Borderlands 2 for that. Borderlands 1 has moments, but Borderlands 2 is where they really found themselves. And yeah, I had a great time with the third. The fourth one I enjoyed. The fourth one added superhero elements as you were... Was that the one you were digitized? Or like it was all a simulation? Let's see. That's gameplay. Plot. Just reading things real quick. I'm so sorry. So he's president. Yeah, because things are crazy. Earth is hit by an invasion from alien empire. Yep. There's a computer simulation. That's right. So with the fourth one, it was still fun, but you lost a lot of elements of like the vehicle transports and stuff like that, because you didn't really need the vehicles when you're jumping around and running super speed, and you can like do superhuman leaps like the Hulk. So it lost a little bit of fun factor there. Like, it was fun using those things, don't get me wrong, but it was just like, here's all these things in the world of the vehicles, you're never going to use them, because why would you? And then Gat Out of Hell was a shorter one. I think this was initially supposed to be a DLC 4, and they're like, oh, we can actually get or do something more out of this. So they revived one of their characters that people really liked and had a mini story with him, which was a good time as well. But I think the third was probably my most favorite out of all of these. So when they announced the remake, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. You know, I'll check it out, or the reboot, excuse me. And then Saints Row came out in 2022, and oh boy, it did not do well. Apparently it was missing a lot of the fun factor of the OG line, and kind of like just the interesting mechanics that the originals had, or at least that those string of games had. So I was like, oh, it's not doing well. I'm not going to get into it. So eventually it came to PS Plus for free, so you could just add it to your library. And recently I decided, you know what, I just want something to kind of turn my brain off to, and shoot some stuff and blow stuff up and just, you know, go through it. If I enjoy it and make it all the way through the story, great. If not, it was free. At least, you know, I tried it. And surprisingly enough, I had a good time with it. Now, I don't think this stands up in comparison to like the third in a lot of ways, but I had a decent time with it. I would say this is like, you know, that middle of the range, like it's a fine game. Like it's something you can play. It's not bad where it's like disgusting, like at least it sounded like when the game was coming out, and people were appalled by. So what the story is here is pretty much how the Saints, the gang here, is established. And none of the returning characters from the original string of games here, all new characters, but how they explain it is it's a group of 4 friends. 3 of them are part of, well, 2 are part of gangs. 1, your main character, is part of like this military agency, and things happen where you're all best friends, but things happen where everybody kind of gets kicked out of their group, and you're like, you know what, let's make our own thing. So the 4 of you kind of make your own criminal business, for lack of a better term. Enterprise. That's the word. Thank you. Enterprise. Criminal enterprise. So you are robbing trains with loads of money. You're setting up side hustles where, you know, the income rolls in. You're building up your gang. You're finding secret headquarters. And it's your journey of building this group up, dealing with the opposition of the other factions, similar to the other games, and just establishing yourself in this city. In terms of that, great. Good story. Simple enough. In terms of the characters, they try and do what the Saints Row formula is of like, haha, we're going to be goofy and we're going to go over the top. And I feel like they did, but also it felt very toned down in comparison. So if you've played like Saints Row 3rd and 4th, there's a lot of insane stuff that happens in terms of the combat. Spoiler for the beginning of Saints Row the 3rd, but you're literally fighting through an airplane as it's blowing up, and then skydiving out of it, still shooting all the enemies around you, and then parachuting like to safety from there. There's crazy ass weapons. There's a chum bucket like shotgun where you shoot chum out, and then a shark just emerges from the ground and eats people. You have a giant dildo bat you can just whack people with the physics, and it's crazy with that. There's absolutely batshit crazy stuff that's going on, and that's the charm and the fun of it, right? And this game never really reaches those levels of like insanity and what's going on. They have certain things where there's still certain set pieces where your character is almost godlike in terms of your guns, and how this should make zero sense how one person is fighting off waves and waves of the police or these different crime organizations that are attacking you. There's that, and then there's the takedown mechanic where you have flow, and every time it charges it, if a character or enemy rather is weak enough, you can go up, do like a melee takedown, and those are silly. But yeah, it just never gets super crazy, and I think that's probably why this game didn't do super well. And I think Volition, the developers, unfortunately did go under. Yikes! I'm not sure. Let me check that before I just lie. And I think that's something I would have wanted a little bit more. The characters, the main gang that you do play with, your allies, I think they have enough character behind them where they are interesting and they are funny, which I did appreciate that. Yeah, so it could have done more there. There are a few funny elements. For example, one of the characters is really into LARPing. So he takes you on some side quests where you go LARP with him. So you have all fake guns. You're like, oh, I hit you. Oh, I hit you. And like even your takedowns, you do these fake punches and whatnot. And I feel like those moments where they have those character and really fun elements to it, that they could have gone farther with and kind of called back to the earlier titles and made it more just engaging with the players in terms of an entertainment value, instead of just like, yeah, we're gonna make a shooter where you can shoot stuff. So it is what it is. So I looked it up. Let's see. November 2022, Embracer Group stated that Saints Row did not meet full expectations and left the fan base partially polarized, but financially performed in line with management expectations in the quarter. It subsequently announced that Volition would be transferred from Deep Silver to Gearbox Entertainment, stating that it has all the looks, including experienced management team. Okay, so there's still... Oh, nope. In August 2023, Embracer shuttered Volition. So, RIP to that studio. Obviously, the last few years in games development has been awful in terms of layoff, so that's not great. So yeah. Didn't really have a lot of fun factor. Or at least in terms of the character that the original series did have. In terms of gameplay, it is a lot of checkbox stuff. If you just do the campaign's kind of short. I think it's like 11 missions entirely, which isn't the longest thing in the world. So I kind of wish they had something more there in terms of substance. There was a few side characters that they introduced where I wish they kind of explored a little bit more of what their relationship was with your main character, and you could have established that a little bit more. The villain, for example, is one where I felt like just kind of drops off. I thought there would be a moment where they tried to get the revenge on the character after a big hero moment. That didn't happen. Granted, there was a choice that you could make as the player of how you dealt with them. I chose one path that left it a little bit more open. The other path does not. So maybe that's the case. They just wanted to plan for like, this could work for either choice that you made. But it just seemed a little weird. But the rest of the gameplay, yeah, it's a lot of checkbox stuff. So as you're building your enterprise, you have a lot of side hustles, like I said. And in those side hustles, some are callbacks to the originals, where you have like the insurance fraud, where you're literally throwing yourself in front of cars and racking up money in a certain time frame. That's a lot of fun. Enjoyed that as a nice callback. There's some where you're stealing cars and bringing them back to a garage. There's one where you have a wingsuit in this game, so you go and tackle enemies and defeat them while blowing up like little radio towers. I think there's about 10, 12 different ones like that. They're all different, so it does have the variety there. But every time you start one, they have criminal ventures. They have like stage 1 of 7. So you have to go do 6 of these mini games or mini missions. And then that 7th one is just like, hey, you did it. Good job. Every time you do that, it increases how much money you gain over time to put in your pocket and how profitable that venture is going to be. It's fine. Sometimes it just turned into like, this isn't the most fun checkbox thing in the world. There's a lot of collectibles out there that you can do. Like there's drug stashes that you can find. There's photos of monuments that you can find all around the world where you can decorate your base with certain elements. There's threats, so just little pockets of enemies that you can clear out of the area, almost as if it's like clearing them out so your gang controls the territory. Trying to think of anything else. Yeah. One area does shine, I will say, is customization. Whether it's your character customization or your vehicle customization or even your gun customization, they do have a lot of options there for things that you can change and adjust and modify. For example, with the guns, like there's a lot of different skins that you can apply to different areas of your gun, which I do appreciate. Overall, yeah, I don't think this game deserved, at least from what I recall in 2022, the negativity it did receive of like, oh, this is, atrocious and awful. Granted, I didn't play it at launch, so maybe like play-wise it wasn't great and super smooth. But giving it the time here, I enjoyed my time with it thoroughly. I'm 1 trophy away from platinuming it, so obviously that can kind of tell you how much time I put into it. I think 40 hours or so. Stupid online trophy. But if it's something that you did maybe get with PlayStation Plus or you see it for sale, I would certainly say, yeah, if you want, once again, something it's got a little bit of a story to it, not the most deep, but it will kind of check that box of like just fun, turn off your brain, go with the flow type of thing. I would say, yeah, give it a try, play it. It seems like this franchise is dead, unfortunately, with obviously Volition's fate. Deep Silver, I think, is still around, which made the Get Out of Hell thing. So there's a chance, but who knows? It's too bad that it couldn't catch the fire of what 3 and 4 did. And the insanity there, to try and build this back up to be something new, and get it back, obviously, in the eyes of people who are playing. Similar to our RE conversation earlier, this makes me want to go back and play Saints Row the 3rd and the 4th again. And, obviously those have aged a little bit since the 360 PS3 era. But just, yeah, seeing the insanity in comparison to this, be like, oh yeah, this maybe see more of the stuff that they were missing with this reboot, or rather attempted reboot, and be like, yeah, okay, maybe I see a little bit more why this didn't catch on as much, instead of just being like going with the personality they brought instead of just toning it down to try and reach that wider audience. Maybe they should have just gone balls to the wall and been like, yep, this is us. Love it or hate it. But yeah. But everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there. You get notified when we go live, and you can join us on the fun and conversation like Papa Griff and Blue Mudhorn did today. But if you can't catch live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support us, likes, shares, reviews, whatever it is. It may seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation about all these games. What games you guys been playing lately? Let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, we'll have some fun with that. But once again, thank you guys for giving this a watch, giving it a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one.